Animation, the CSDB celebrating 150 years logo. Text, 1941 to 1960. A woman signs in American Sign Language in the corner of the screen throughout the video. Photo of the 1941 football team.
1941 began with excitement. The football team was undefeated for the first time in many years, winning all 7 games. Students who were blind traveled to Pueblo for a presentation by Helen Keller.
Colorado Index article and photo of Helen Keller.
They sat in the front rows and shook her hand afterwards.
Archival films, President Roosevelt and Pearl Harbor explosions.
However, dramatic changes were in store. On December 7, 1941, the attack on Pearl Harbor Naval Base fueled the United States to enter World War II.
Colorado Index articles.
Soon, students and staff experienced citywide blackouts and purchased war bonds and defense stamps to help outfit service members.
Archival film, canned goods, gasoline, ration tickets.
Throughout the war, government rations on food, paper, gasoline, and rubber impacted the school most. As the war continued, different items were rationed to ensure enough for everyone.
Colorado Index article.
In 1942, student John Gallimore writes, "On May 5th, the pupils of our school had to be registered for sugar rationing."
Animation, a student looks at her ration book.
After filling out the blanks, a book containing 28 stamps was given to the person. 1 pound of sugar can be purchased every 2 weeks with 1 stamp.
Photo of school garden and a paragraph from board report.
Citizens were also encouraged to plant victory gardens to provide a portion of fresh food for themselves. The school expanded its gardens and grew vegetables that would keep through the winter.
Archival film, sailors waving and a ship.
The war lasted until 1945.
Photos of Girls' Hall, Argo Hall, and a new dorm.
Meanwhile, in 1941, safety concerns led to the demolition of Girls' Hall. A new girls' dorm was built in its place. While it was under construction, students lived on the upper floor of Argo Hall. The girls moved in after Thanksgiving in 1942. Student Bambina Marcantonio recalls,
Photo of Bambina Marcantonio and a paragraph from her book.
"We had lived in cramped quarters for about a year and a half. So this new building was like a palace to us. With its highly polished tile floors, brightly lit hallways, and spacious rooms with large windows and draw drapes."
Photos, Brown Hall and Superintendent Brown.
In 1946, the dorm was renamed Brown Hall after Superintendent Brown.
Photos of Bambi, her parents, and excerpts from her book.
Bambi, who was born blind, enrolled in 1936 when she was 7. Her father, an Italian immigrant, worked in coal mines near Frederick, Colorado. When she was 6, she attended 1 day of public school, but the teacher didn't know how to teach her, and she was denied attendance.
Photos of the CSDB school building and Bambi's book.
Through another mine worker, Bambi's father learned of CSDB. Bambi shares many early memories of school in her book Dammi la mano, Give Me Your Hand.
Bambi at graduation and as a retiree.
She graduated in 1949, and after college, returned to CSDB, where she taught for 30 years.
Photos, Rebecca Shields during an interview, Bambi teaching young students.
One of her students, Rebecca Cancino Shields, remembers her as a good role model, noting, "Because she lived it, we believed it."
Photos, the Venetuccis, a student with a pumpkin, and students with jack-o'-lanterns.
In 1984, after 27 years of friendship, Bambi married Nick Venetucci, who had a farm outside of town. Among other vegetables, he grew pumpkins. He became well known for inviting children to the pumpkin patch every fall for a free pumpkin.
Photos of students on a camping trip followed by photos of each activity mentioned.
During this time, several new extracurricular activities were added, including cheerleading and volleyball, as well as wrestling and track for students who were blind. Yearly gymnastics programs highlighted students' skills, which they'd learned in gym class. Dr. Brown taught square dancing to students who were deaf, while students who were blind played music for the dances. The long-standing En Avant Literary Society for students who were deaf, and the newly formed Emerson Literary Society for students who were blind provided opportunities for students to learn to write, hold meetings, and present in front of others. The school also had its own Girl Scout and Boy Scout troops, and a variety of musical opportunities.
Animation, students swinging and standing outside, smoke rising from school building. A student walks toward the building.
On March 22, 1950, 18-year-old Juan Cruz was enjoying recess outside with other students who were blind when he saw smoke rising from the school building.
Photos, Juan Cruz, Frank Cancino during an interview. Film footage of the fire.
Juan, along with a couple of other boys, set off the fire alarms and began alerting students. Alumnus Frank Cancino, a teenager at the time, remembers Juan banging a gong to alert everyone.
Photos, Adolf Segura during an interview and the assembly hall.
Another alum, Adolf Segura, remembered that day well too. He was with a large group of students in the assembly hall at the time.
Adolf in ASL, a man voices.
One kid told Mrs. Cunningham, "There's smoke. Right over there. Smoke."
Photos and film footage from the fire and a photo of the General Palmer painting.
Thanks to regular fire drills, students calmly exited the building, then lined up outside. When they looked back, the building was on fire. Students remember several boys going back inside to rescue paintings from the building. You may recognize this one of General Palmer, which now hangs in the admin building. In horror, students stood nearby to watch. Then, according to Adolf, a big ball of fire drove them further away.
Film footage of fire truck.
About a dozen fire trucks from across the city assisted,
Photos, destroyed school building.
but the fire spread too quickly, and the building was lost. In addition, the school's braille library and musical instruments were all destroyed.
Frank Cancino graduation photo.
Frank Cancino remembers seeing the organ crash from the third floor to the basement.
Frank.
It was heartbreaking. Just so much destruction.
Photo, destroyed building, newspaper headline.
It was later determined that an electrical short caused the blaze. Classes were held all around campus
Photo, Gottlieb building.
until the Gottlieb building opened in 1952.
Photos, Superintendents Brown and Stell.
In 1954, Dr. Brown retired, and Roy Stell became superintendent. He'd worked at the Texas School for the Deaf since 1948 after serving in World War II.
Photos, infirmary, mural, hospital beds, and a nurse with a patient.
In 1957, a new infirmary replaced the hospital building. It included a tactile mural by nationally known sculptor and painter Edgar Britton, featuring animals and braille descriptions. The new state-of-the-art building had room for up to 20 students and a clinic with exam rooms, a nurse's station, and a dentist office. The building also had a kitchen and a small dining room. The mural is still part of the preschool building today.
Photos, two people stand outside at a dairy.
That same year, after 50 years of receiving fresh milk from the school dairy,
News headline.
the land was sold.
Two photos of students walking with long canes.
By the late 1950s, orientation and mobility instruction was available. It was called travel training and was originally for seniors only. By 1960, though, even younger students were learning to use a cane.
Archival film, President Kennedy's Civil Rights March on Washington.
With the 1960s and 70s on the horizon, progress was in motion all over the country.
Photos, the Adams and Lyons buildings, 2 girls with tennis rackets.
At CSDB, several new buildings and additions to recreational opportunities would lead to changes in campus life.
Archival film, 1977 football championship.
And one CSDB sports team would become a legendary part of school history.